She actually got in touch with the CEO of Etsy and they opened her shop back up within 24 hours. Are you worried about Etsy shutting down your shop? Maybe that's preventing you from even starting a shop to begin with. Today, I'm going to talk about what it actually takes for Etsy to close your shop or suspend your shop, and I'll show you examples of what these violations actually look like to make sure that you are not doing any of this. And the hope is that you can learn from these situations that I'm showing you and avoid getting shut down yourself. Comment below if your shop has ever been shut down. If your shop is currently shut down, also leave that below so we can kind of see where you're at and see if we can do anything to help you. Number one, actually one of the number one reasons that I see shops getting shut down now and listings being deactivated is because sellers are not clear on what category they're selling in. So I myself am a supply category queen. I love selling supplies on Etsy. I easily make over $75,000 a year just selling supplies, and that's profit. So a lot of sellers start to get into the supply game and they royally screw this up, and they really put their entire shop in jeopardy because they categorize their supplies as handmade items. That is a huge, huge no-no. Here's an example of a listing that is clearly a plastic straw that someone did not make themselves, and they are listing it as a handmade item. You can look under item details and you see that it is handmade. Big problem. We look at another listing, we see more handmade straws, right? These are clearly not handmade items, though you can sell them in the supply category only if you position them in certain ways. So if I was going to position these in the supply category, I would be positioning them for an event or occasion, like a party favor, or maybe like party supplies, right? You can see under item details, again, classified as handmade, which is a big, big no-no. How do you know if an item is actually listed correctly? Well, if you scroll down to the item details, you'll see nothing about the category there. It'll just say where it's shipped from, maybe materials, maybe features, but you will not see handmade there. That means that the seller has most likely listed it correctly as a supply category item. Again, here's another example of a listing done correctly. This is a supply category item. Here's an example of one of my listings. Now, the area where you select this is under details. So you will see core details, physical item, supply. So if you had this as a physical item that is handmade, this would be where you're saying that you made it. So you want to be really clear when you're selling supplies that you are not listing it as I made it, another company or person that made it, not someone in your shop, unless they did. You'll say it is not a finished product. That's where a lot of people get into trouble. They say it's a finished product, then it becomes classified as handmade. So you have to select a supply or tool to make things. Then you want to select the year and then apply. So go ahead and fix all of your listings that are misclassified as handmade. The number two way to get your shop shut down, which I personally hate to see, but it is using paraphernalia in your listings, whether it is intentional or unintentional. Stay away from it. Etsy is not the place to be selling something like that. And just because you see other people selling it, it definitely doesn't mean it's okay. It just means they haven't been caught yet. Who wants to run their business kind of flying by the seat of their pants about to get shut down? Not me. And I even recommend being careful with the way that you might be using your flowery language. This could be like saying, look at these cute Mary Jane shoes. Okay, even be careful with that, because the last thing you want is for some bot filter to catch your listing falsely. And Etsy even says this right here. Otherwise, qualifying items that are presented as paraphernalia, such as the listing images, titles, descriptions, or tags. So even if something could be misconstrued as such, it is not safe territory. Number three that I see a lot of handmade sellers struggling with, and digital sellers as well, not making medical claims. You cannot make medical claims. And by medical, I mean anything that would have an influence or impact on the human body. And an extreme example of this that a lot of people don't even think about is newborn teethers, baby teethers. We have had students with listings shut down for selling teethers, even gift boxes with teethers inside of them. Anything related to pain relief or even sleep aids, right? Like with lavender or something. Even talking about muscles or skincare. A big thing you want to be careful for is claiming SPF or sun protection in your products. Any claims of anti-aging, that is a big, big no-no. Even talking about the impact of moisturizers, that can really get you in trouble if you talk about them in a medical fashion. So if something has an effect effect on the human body, you've got to be extremely careful. Here's an anti-aging serum. Unfortunately, this is a high-risk situation. If you just type in SPF, you will see a ton of products that are claiming SPF as a benefit. Another one here, pain relief, nerve pain relief cream. Very, very risky. Even having nerve pain in there is high risk. They do say, nor should it replace any medications prescribed by a medical professional, but I have found with my students that that is not enough of a statement. If another seller wanted to report your products, for example, say that you're making false claims, your listing would be taken down. Another example, sleep aid. Even saying natural sleep aid, that is risky, as well as anxiety, stress. Now let's talk about maybe a little bit more of an obvious one, but it's happening more and more in ways that people don't even realize they're breaking the rules. And this is copyright, trademark infringements. Obviously, Disney is a big no-no. Pretty much everyone who's doing Disney things, I would say they know that. And we know just because we see everyone else doing it doesn't mean that it's okay. And it's really just a matter of time. Now, with copyright and trademark infringements, the owner of that copyright or that trademark has to be the one to report it, or someone reporting it on their behalf. So they have to hire someone to do that. But these companies are known to hire big teams of VAs to go out and scrape Etsy search results to do this. And it's not worth the risk. I actually had 2 things taken down. One of them was Tiffany blue flowers. I called them Tiffany blue, taken down. We see that happening here still. Tiffany blue, here's an example. But I want to show you an alternative to this, and it would be something like this, where they're calling it robin's egg color, right? They're not even saying blue. Now let's talk about one that I see way too many people doing. It's leveraging artists' names. Now this has happened with Harry Styles, with Taylor Swift. Here's a listing that is violating this. You know, they lead with Swift, but then they jump right into Taylor Swift. Taylor t-shirt, Eras tour, right? So even the name of a tour could potentially have a copyright associated with it. So if the product itself says Taylor Swift, but the SEO and the title, it doesn't say Taylor Swift, it's still a problem. This is an interesting one because this one is claiming vintage in the title, which I think is how they might have slipped under the radar. They're claiming this is a vintage 90s graphic style Harry Styles t-shirt. Harry Styles and vintage, you cannot claim vintage unless you can prove it, which brings me into my next point, claiming something is vintage when it's vintage inspired. I have seen listings taken down for that. Sometimes I have also seen Etsy ask for proof that it is vintage. They'll ask where it came from. I do have to talk about Disney because clearly there are lots of Disney violations here. They're even calling out all the names, Mickey Mouse, Disney World, like also the photos. Now, there are some really great opportunities for you to leverage Disney characters that no longer have a trademark. For example, certain versions of Pooh and Mickey both are okay to use. So you still can leverage Disney, just make sure that you're leveraging the right characters. All right, now let's talk about a big one that I see so many people missing, and this is logos that are used as props. So this is where you are trying to benefit from associating with another brand. For example, you're showing a print-on-demand t-shirt with someone that's holding a Starbucks drink with the Starbucks logo. Here we see an example of someone who is actually selling the logo itself. And if it was not obvious that that is not okay, we see it happening again here. People are selling these vinyl decals that are the actual logo. Even if you are using a Stanley Cup as a prop in your photo, to rotate it so that you're actually not showing the logo itself. And one of the last ways that Etsy can shut your shop down that I've seen is by being inconsistent with your information. When you have, let's say, a billing account in one country, physical location claimed in another country, and maybe your products are from another country, you know, we just want everything to be consistent location-wise. Now you might be wondering, what do I do if I'm print on demand and I'm living in Africa and I want to be claiming my location as the US? Okay, this is what you do. Open bank accounts in the US, have an established address in the US, create an LLC in the US, right? Have some footprint in the US so that you can claim that the business is tied to the US, right? These are just some reasons that Etsy could shut your shop down. There are more. Sometimes it is accidental. I think that Etsy's new $15 startup fee for new shops is actually going to help eliminate a lot of the accidental shutdowns because now there is a barrier to entry for sellers. It's going to be a lot less in terms of bot accounts, scam accounts. There are two types of shutdowns, shop closures and account closures. And we treat these very differently. And that is why when we help Etsy sellers navigate these things, we need to know the language that was used. We need screenshots so we know exactly how you should best respond. Usually for a shop closure, the appeal works quite well, usually within 1 week, but I've seen as far out as 2 months. If it's an account closure, then that is tied to your EIN or SSN. And that means that that identity, that SSN or that EIN cannot open a shop, right? But maybe your husband could. Maybe you could open an LLC and that new business entity can have a shop. There's so many workarounds for this, but if you need help, just let us know. I've helped dozens of people with this. And one of my students, her name is Jontel. She is a badass military veteran and she actually got in touch with the CEO of Etsy and they opened her shop back up within 24 hours. Boom. No excuses. We can do this. If you need help, just reach out, but it's really better just to not violate any of these things to begin with. And if you ever have an accidental shutdown situation, we help our students with that. If that ever happens, if you need help, just reach out. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video.
After I joined the program, I gained so much clarity. Dylan is a wealth of knowledge and she shares all of her secrets with you. That coaching aspect of it, you can't get that through reading or watching videos.